Thanks for joining and welcome. I've got a few little things to talk about first about the channel, and then I've already got a few videos lined up ready for my first couple of topics, which will be the race this weekend and some of the new transfers, or the first transfer discussion so far for this summer windows. Fell in love with football all the way back at the start of the 90s, World Cup Italian 90. I'll never forget the family swinging off the ceiling and the lights over penalty shootouts. And whilst I didn't really understand football too much at that age, over the next couple of seasons I started to watch more and more, and I certainly watched pretty much as much of the season I could have for the first Premier League triumph that we had. We were also spoiled and lucky. How foolish were we to think, oh, was we always going to win forever and a day? And now we're all asking that question, aren't we? How do we get back to that path? What is the next step? What is the next stage? So really that's kind of what these videos are going to be about, is for me really looking at, are we following a particular path? Is there a trajectory that we're following? Is there a style of play? In my opinion, there is a style, and I can see why people would disagree, including some very well named and respected pundits. But in it's talking about looking at how we have played in the last couple of seasons under Eric. Now he's been confirmed to be staying, and looking at how and which type of player then would suit that sort of style, what type of player is going to complement the current way we play, what sort of players that when we get linked with them might give us a hint to maybe a change in our formation or strategy. So really looking into those, and there's so many great people out there that already give you fantastic stats, and obviously some of the great sports writers already, so I'm not trying to give any of that really. For me, it's not a breaking news story, it's not in-depth stats analysis. This is probably somewhere a little bit more in between, where we're trying to bring a bit of, trying to make it a bit more relatable, so that when we see something, or we hear something, or we feel something, we can then connect it to what we're actually seeing in terms of performance. And always been a massive Formula One fan. In terms of my team, it's very much a team papaya now. Obviously inspired by all the way back then. I wasn't a fan back then, I wasn't old enough, but my first memory in McLaren is actually good old Nigel Mansell struggling to get into the car, unfortunately, and then following Mika Hakkinen and DC. So that was fantastic for me, great experience when I was starting to get into F1 really. 94 a little bit was what I watched, and then 1995 the first full season I watched. And my family, my brother and sister will undoubtedly tell you that I was a bit more of a fan of Schumacher as well back then, no doubt about it. But I didn't join him at Ferrari. At the same time, when I was getting used to the sport, starting to follow it, and looking into some of the history. And I suppose at the time I didn't realise what happened, but obviously after the fact, you keep seeing it referred to the terrible incidents in Imola '94 with Ratzenberger and Senna. I just started to link and follow that white and red team, and then they become silver and or grey, I suppose. It was grey-black, and the success story started with those two titles under those last couple of years there under the now absolutely amazing Adrian Newey. He's gone, and absolutely loved it. And then even all that battle, and I think there's always been a McLaren v Ferrari battle of all battles, so I think that's always been there anyway, but that's certainly both before then and around that era, and then more recent years you've seen that. And again this season, are we now about to see another Ferrari v McLaren sort of battles coming on? It could well be McLaren now that are second best, and really I'm looking the closest someone has been to Red Bull under these ground effect cars. So yeah, for me, there's loads of people out there that I think are fantastic, super knowledgeable. Loads of people are at some of those races. I do go to the odd one. I try and get to at least one a year. This year I'm off to Amsterdam to go to Zandvoort. I was at Zandvoort last year. The year before, Silverstone Zandvoort. So yeah, most seasons I'm somewhere in Europe. I try and get to at least one. Been to Spain a few times, so yeah, that's where I'm coming from, and I'm coming at it as a bit of a fan, but also, you know, years of following the sport, there is obviously the politics side of it, there's also the technical side of it, as well as obviously what actually happens on track. So hopefully this channel is going to give you a little bit of I suppose a little bit of an easier way of understanding some of those different nuances and aspects, without obviously all the massive information and, you know, absolutely tremendous work that some of these absolutely brilliant people already put out there. Big names already out there that work for Sky Sports F1 or F1 themselves, and other channels of course as well. So there's loads of good people out there already giving you great insights, but a lot of the time it can be quite in-depth and quite detailed and a little bit harder to follow. So really the whole point of what I'm going to be doing is more trying to make it a little bit more digestible, so that when we talk about certain things, that it's not going to be overly complex. It's a bit more straightforward in how